Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men. July 4th, Benjamin Franklin. Today, our story is about one of the founding fathers of the United States. Few people know Benjamin Franklin only spent 2 years in school, and later he spent 2 years in a colonial prison for opposing the Revolution. At age 12, Franklin became an indentured apprentice at his brother's print shop, where he worked hard and was beaten often. At 16, he took the pen name Mrs. Silence Dogood, under which he published essays for women. When he started his own print shop, he published Poor Richard's Almanac, which, along with some land deals, enabled him to retire, and he was so-called retired for half his life. While retired, he invented the lightning rod, bifocal glasses, and a more efficient heating stove. He was a delegate to the Continental Congress and Constitutional Convention, ambassador to France and Sweden, the first postmaster general, and the president of the Supreme Executive Council of Pennsylvania. On this day in history, Benjamin Franklin signed the Declaration of Independence.
Finish strong. A future harvest depends on it. Hugging her slate to her chest, a little girl peeked into the dark bedroom where Benjamin Franklin slept. Grandfather? Franklin's eyes fluttered open. But the woman standing next to Franklin's bed hushed the child and walked quickly to meet the little one at the doorway. "I need Grandfather to hear my lesson," Nancy whispered loudly. "Not now. Grandfather needs to rest. He is very weak," the woman said as she tried to usher Nancy out. But the 84-year-old Franklin rasped, "Let her in. It is the working man who is the happy man. It is the idle man who is the miserable man. I refuse to be idle, even on my deathbed. Let the child in so I can hear her lesson." Nancy darted over to her grandpa, recited her lesson, and then turned to the papers on the table next to the bed. "What are you writing, Grandfather?" Just a letter to an old friend. I am telling him about my one regret." Nancy asked him about the regret. "I was born too soon, Nancy," he said. "I will miss all the improvements and inventions I feel are coming. I regret that I will not see the further spread of liberty in this country and the world. I am so curious to see how it will all turn out, but this old body just won't hold out." Franklin had spent his life constantly working on ideas to improve life for society. He had organized the first police and fire services and even created sidewalks. He had improved fireplaces and chimneys, discovered ways to heat public buildings, harnessed electricity, and developed salt mines. But his greatest passion was liberty. He had fought for freedom from oppression for his fellow Americans, including groups of people who were often overlooked. He advocated for the protection of Native Americans and initiated the humane treatment of prisoners. All this besides his work to help form the government of the United States. "A dying man can do nothing easy," Franklin said as he moved slowly in his bed trying to get comfortable. He was still sore from the long carriage ride he had made a few weeks earlier when he knew he didn't have much longer in this world. Yet, he was determined to do one last act for liberty. He would go to Congress to present the first petition remonstrance against slavery in America. Part of that petition read, "That you will be pleased to countenance the restoration of liberty to those unhappy men who alone in a land of freedom are degraded into perpetual bondage." Franklin never got to see that liberty granted. That would take another 75 years, but it did come. "Nancy, do you see that picture up there?" asked Franklin. "Who is it?" His voice was barely above a whisper now. Nancy looked at the framed painting on the wall. "It is Christ," she said. "Yes, Nancy. He is the one who came into this world to teach men how to love one another." Franklin took his last breath as he confidently fixed his eyes on the picture. He had sowed many seeds. He had been allowed to see only hints of the harvest to come. But a harvest was coming, and Christ would finish the work he had begun. As the scriptures tell us in 1 John 5:17, "For we will not be afraid on the day of judgment, because we live like Jesus here in this world." Are you busy sowing seeds? Think through how you spend your days. How can you use the passion God has given you to sow seeds that will grow and produce a harvest? Finish strong. A future harvest depends on it.
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Join us tomorrow for another story at 365christianmen.com.